they're keeping a much stronger contain. And I suppose, even though, yes, Miller lost Matheson's triumph, sorry, Watterson's redemption, apologies, Watterson's redemption, right? It's still only one base. It's still only kind of like a limited amount of percent territory. It doesn't like have a point value. So if they get their hands on ice mining operations, then as far as territory control is concerned, we're all back and square again. But with 60 seconds to go, they're already... Are they losing the higher ground? It's hard to say. No, they've been counter-pushed on the centre. They've just been pushed right down the middle by the Connery force. Even though they tried to hold the contain on the side, it's been saved again.
I know that Miller loves its smoke, but Miller seems to be using even more smoke than usual today. They have managed to resecure with some gal drops on top of the point at ISA Southern Camp and wipe out the VS who were doing a point hold there. The VS just simply couldn't see what was going on. They could not see the people coming at them. There was so much smoke in that room.
A large response to save ISA Mining Camp. 3-1 response for Southern Camp. That is that one squad was extremely effective. Imagine if you had those extra numbers, helping elsewhere, perhaps at the Raw Material Lab or Manny Lake, or helping extra push the ISA mining operation.
I think the other thing we're going to start seeing here is usually you have outfits or groups, platoons that are assigned to certain areas, and the Miller guys who were assigned to the Isotech Plant Center area and the Connery guys who were assigned to the Isotech Plant Center area are coming closer together. Sending a single squad somewhere doesn't work anymore because you have 96 people who are within 2 hexes of you from the enemy that can do what that can move. You can foot search some of these bases.
Of the Connery forces at Bridge ISA mining operations, they're just systematically picking off all of Miller's Sunders. This is probably the 3rd time that we've seen this type of response, where Miller gets close within the 1 minute marker, but then it just all falls apart, extra reinforcements. And I'd like to see Miller commit a number to a base, and then the instant the enemy starts coming in with more numbers, i.e. 50-50, then you call in the reinforcements. You have like a reserves waiting on the wings, so you don't reveal your numbers of attackers, but then, you bring in... I'd like to see both teams do that, because that's an evolution of the game of meta. With the redeployment side, teams are basically kind of counter each other, and I'd like to see where one team baits out the enemy to, commit their numbers, and then pull in their own reinforcements. It's a lovely little fight going over the Isotech plant. Mainly an air battle. Looks like Miller's keeping air control, at least over this section. But it seems to be mainly just air control, anti-air. It doesn't seem that they're actually doing anything productive on the ground, or at least from my limited vision. Echo Valley substation's actually being attacked by the Connery. Oh, I do believe Redland is disconnected. Is that perhaps a problem with TeamSpeak? We'll have to wait and see. You here, Luya? You back, Redland? Oh, this is interesting. I think the TeamSpeak's having a heart attack. Anyway, we'll continue on as we are. At Echo Valley substation, there's definitely an attack going on by the Connery forces onto the Echo Valley substation. Now, I wonder if there's any problems with TeamSpeak. So if there's problems with TeamSpeak, then perhaps there's going to be problems with the voice communications with the entire command structure. Wow, yes it is. It looks like on the kind of Yell chat there's a TeamSpeak crash. Even though it's rated for 1,000 people, I think it had a heart attack. Although, right, so while everything's going in the background, it's 50-50, so the fact is Miller is going to probably, so long as the numbers stay roughly 50-50, the defenders have that natural advantage, and I don't see how the Connery force, more than anything else, so long as they're fighting at this base, it means that they're not fighting at their own base. It's the preventing from Miller doing their attacks, because the Miller team, they're down 51 to 43. They need to capture a couple of bases to get back into this. And that's going to be tricky, because if we look at the map, they would need to take Aurora Materials, Rime Analytics, maybe Frail Geothermal, those 3 bases, and then maybe Ymir Southern Reach. That'd be enough to kind of flip it to the point where they're winning. That's a lot of base capturing. At the moment, it looks like they really just want to take ice and mining operations, and I wonder why ice and mining operations is getting all this attention. Is ice and mining operations easier to capture? Now that's a lot of people on the minimap than say Rime Analytics. Feels that to me, Rime Analytics is further away from, you know, the Connery spawn of Matheson's Triumph. It's easier to put, you know, with air control, keep your Sunders around and hold a capture point and maybe spawn contain the enemy force. But it is a smaller base, so maybe the Miller force feels that, you know, we want a wider area. But I thought the claustrophobia would help, you know, with the shotguns, you know, the smaller, narrow kind of right-hand corners. It does look like, oh my goodness, it does look like that TeamSpeak has actually properly died. So I will be solo casting until we figure this stuff out. The game is still live, so we're still fighting. People are going to have to fall back to their backup comms. I'm not entirely sure we can pause this. This is going to be chaotic, because now the command structure is broken down. There's no intercommunication, sending orders. Maybe they can use in-game VoIP. We do have a scenario, like an emergency document saying, have a backup TeamSpeak. Make sure you're using the in-game VoIP. Make sure you use the in-game leadership chat in the in-game VoIP system. This is a perfect time to try that stuff out. But the Miller force is committing huge numbers, and I stress huge numbers, ice and mining operations, but they're still at roughly 60-40, and the VS numbers are growing. In terms of other bases, ice and mining, Southern Cap, small numbers going on there. In the north, Manny Lake outnumbered 2-1. Miller's going to need to reinforce that, but there aren't really any numbers that can go anywhere except for maybe Ymir's biolab in the south. But do you move forces from the south to the north, where you might have established platoon 1s in the north, platoon 2s in the south? How easy is it to freely move people around? Because it looks like Miller's kind of rapid response and central forces are fighting at the mining operations, and with 90 seconds to go, they might be able to pull this off, but we've seen time and time again the Connery force being able to somehow miraculously come in, clean everything up, and they just take the capture point. It's very impressive. So I will see if I can't get Redland back. Alright, I've just given some TeamSpeak details to Redland, so we're going to have a backup. Hopefully he'll join me shortly, and we'll get some co-casting again. Alright, so anyway, back to the base. Apologies that I missed this. 14 seconds to go. This is actually remarkably close. I think the Miller force may actually get this base. They've got 9 seconds to go. They're holding on. Lots of numbers. I believe they'll get the capture point. Yeah, with 5 seconds to go. Looks like they've also got their Air Force. Wow, yes, they definitely have their Air Force kind of holding in some assistance. And all it took was a DDoS, probably of the TeamSpeak server, but Millie grabs himself icing mining operations. They've got themselves some blood. Miller takes a base. Well, that's going to definitely help the morale of Miller. Now, the point system is currently 51 to 43. Miller's got themselves ice and mining operations, but the problem is, do they want to keep ice and mining operations because it's so close to Matheson's Triumph? I would have thought they'd maybe want to go somewhere else now. Because of easier to get smaller bases. So now do they go to Rime Analytics? Do they go to Aurora, Manny Lake Satellite? Which, I totally missed that. They lost Manny Lake Satellite. So they've paid for this really heavy fight, Miller, getting ice and mining operations to get Manny Lake. Oh, there's Redland. Hello, Redland. Can you speak?
Yes, I can speak.
Okay, so I know we're having a little TeamSpeak crisis, but there are disaster plans in place for different teams. They have fallback TeamSpeak servers, and they have the in-game VoIP, as we're saying. We're just talking about the game, how Miller very stalwartly took ISA mining operations with a huge number of forces, but at the same time they lost Manny Lake Satellite, and now the Biolab is under contention.
Yes, and I mean, this is one of the deals when crises like this happen, when TeamSpeak servers crash, or when a bunch of people DC, which is what we used to deal with all the time on the test server. It does offer an opening for the other team, but also it's up to the leadership of the other group to make sure that they can react accordingly and get people back in and stuff like that. The game does have in-game voice. It has there are multiple TeamSpeaks that the teams can go to, and those are all things that we can use to continue the match going.
Well, as far as the tech plant goes, this is now playing into the favour of Miller, in a sense that, okay, we thought they might be pushed back to the Biolab, and they have, so now got that save. They've pushed back to both Biolabs. In theory, they could save it, but we didn't think they would lose Washington's Redemption, but they did. And there's an even 50-50 fight going at ISA Southern Camp, so we'll go there now. But I think Miller, they needed to take the mining operations. So they needed to take that base because they needed the territory, right? But taking it first, I think it's going to be quite easy. I mean, it's going to basically pin down a lot of forces for Miller to stay there and keep a hold of it, to keep a hold of mining operations.
One of the things that Miller is going to have to do here is take control of many Biolab. The VS have obviously managed to get their forces back together and make a push up there, and now Miller has to communicate with its forces and get enough forces up here to a Biolab and take it back. That shouldn't be too part of an issue. We've seen them do it multiple times down at Ymir, but it is something that they're going to have to do now and get those scat maxes rolling.
As far as ISA Southern Camp's concerned, Connery has got themselves very well established. They've got themselves basically a full squad, maybe a little bit more, with motion sensors set up at the capture point. They seem to have the majority of air control, but it doesn't look like the air is actually pounding the ground. They're actually just clearing the skies. There's a lot of smoke going on. Because I am Vanu, I don't see all the enemies. Actually, here comes a large push for the Miller force on the west side of the base, rotating round to the capture point. I do believe they've taken the wall. Yes, they have, and they're moving to the capture building. With 90 seconds to go, this does look like it's in the favour of Miller, the ability to make their space safe. The Connery forces know it's... Sorry, go ahead.
Miller has decided to make a push on a base we have not seen them attack yet, which is Matherson's Triumph. Matherson's Triumph is an incredibly difficult base to take from defenders, and it is a notorious population sink as well. I'm kind of surprised there are other easier bases that they could be going after here. Instead, they're deciding to go after this particular base, which I don't think has ever been capped in anywhere close to 10 minutes.
We're currently watching the continued smoke grenade cluster mass going on at ISA Southern Camp, but it does look like the Miller force is slowly making a save. There's lots of reinforcements coming in from Connery, though. It's very hard to say. Lots of res grenades going on, and the res grenades, they're not being... Well, okay, never mind. I was going to say they're not being corpse camped, but yes, they are. And Miller makes a stalwart defense of their base, of ISA Southern Camp. And just as you were saying... but the base things, I don't think Miller really should be going for Matheson's Triumph. I was surprised that they're going for ISA mining operation. I would have thought Rhyme Analytics would have been the better base. Now maybe they just want to safeguard the tech plant so that nothing can be taken. Right, the tech plant's properly safe. But at the same time, Rhyme Analytics would have been an easier base to take. And if you can get Rhyme Analytics, you can threaten Aurora Material Labs from the rear. And I think Miller Forces really needs to take back Manny Lake. They need to get Aurora Materials and Rhyme Analytics, and if they can do that, they are definitely in this game again. With the ability, that might actually be enough to bring the base, the captures back to 50.
It's something that we constantly see.
Oh, Echo Valley.
Yes, it's something we constantly see. The Eastern Warp Gate never remembers that it has a connection from Sierra Listening Post to Rhyme Analytics. They always strategically act like the only way into Rhyme is through Aurora, that they can't get to it. Every single match I've ever seen in
You're not going to believe this.
Where Rhyme is taken by the enemy. Nobody ever pushes it.
Echo Valley substation, and this is the problem with communications. I know that Connery, there's the DPSO TeamSpeak, so they have a unified kind of emergency backup comms. I wonder if Miller's beginning to suffer now the ability to issue orders, because with 1 minute to go, there is no response from a Miller towards Echo Valley substation. So there's no response. It's a free base, and there's a huge reinforcement wave of vehicles coming in as well to make it worse for Miller, with Connery bringing in reinforcements. It looks like this communications breakdown is beginning to impact Miller, and I can only imagine the drama that's going to go on, but unfortunately it is what it is, and this is going to hurt Miller now.
We currently have people actually talking with the hosting company about what happened, so...
Yeah, it's like when we sold you the 1,000-person TeamSpeak, we didn't actually think that you'd have 1,000 people.
Yeah.
I do believe the TeamSpeak's back up. I just logged into it right now.
Okay. I will head back over there.
Ha! As I say that, I can't change channels. Oh, there we go. Right, we'll see how this goes for now. Right, anyway, apologies about that. As far as Echo Valley substation goes, I tell you what, I do apologise, ladies and gentlemen, for missing that. A massive reinforcement recall by Miller. They did notice, they did get in. The beauty of this base is that the actual reinforcement time from the spawn room to the capture point is very, very short. So this huge vehicle reinforcement for Connery those numbers could have been better spent on the capture point. Now, it does mean that it's a number sink, and that Miller had to do a very large recall at the very last moment, numbers that could potentially have been used elsewhere, but the important thing is they have made in a significant base defense. And I wouldn't say the map is stabilized, but it is sort of awkwardly stable at the moment. They've made a save at Echo Valley substation. They still have ISA manning operation. They're trying to get Matheson's Triumph, which I'm not entirely sure of the logic behind that. And it looks like they're making a quasi-successful attempt to push on Manny in the north, the Manny Lake. But they don't have the numbers though. They're out pops. We'll have a look. Just talk here, Red, if the other TeamSpeak's not working.
Yeah, I am currently... Actually, I just tabbed out of my game here. Hold on.
Well, the fact is the Miller force is being pushed out by Connery. Very large redeploy by Connery forces at Manny Lake. The Echo Valley substation is probably saved by Miller. They've got 24 plus there. But the attacking force by Connery. So the difference from what we've seen before is Connery is being all attack. They're constantly attacking, and this is working very much in their favour. Okay, you pushed us off of, Echo Valley substation. Oh, now we're going to attack ISA Southern Camp. And Miller's having to commit more numbers than what the Connery force has, simply to make the save every time.
Can you give Passionate the TeamSpeak info for here? I'm trying to get in touch with him right now, if you have contact for him.
Hello,
now,
Passionate.
Connery is still trying to get access to the tech plant. That is the one thing Miller has managed to do. Miller has managed to completely lock off the tech plant from any danger. And Connery...
Red, can you come back?
Yes?
Doesn't matter, server crashed again. I got a hold of Passionate for all of 2 seconds. Do continue, please.
Miller has managed to cut off any access to the tech plant, so that's a worry they don't have to have at the moment. And Connery just keeps on kind of leapfrogging its forces between Southern Camp and Mining, attempting to get those back. Actually, they are at both of those right now, attempting to get access back into that tech plant area. So this is another thing where Miller's going to have to do a last-minute save. And Connery is also attacking Ymir Biolab as well.
Well, Miller responds in kind. Looks like the initial shock of communications, whatever backup that they're using, is somewhat working. They've managed to make another ISIS Southern camp save. I think it's reading the map and understanding what's going on. The Southern forces at Ymir Southern Biolab, they're holding. The Northern forces at Mani Biolab, they're holding / trying to take Mani Lake Satellite back. So they know what the objective they've got to do. There's an attack going at Rime Analytics that's 50-50. There's actually two squads of Miller possibly at Matheson's Triumph that needs to get back to ISA mining operations, because quite simply they can't attack because ISA mining operations is itself being captured by the Connery force. We'll come back to a second. I want to go north and have a quick look at Mani Lake. So Miller's Air Force, very heavy presence over Mani Lake. The actual capture point, I'll need to get closer to have a look who's inside. Heavy. We got Maxes, we got lots of engineer turrets, engineers medics. It's a strong defense. However, due to the meta of the game mode, there's no enemy air force, right? Because there's no enemy air force, Red, would you not think it'd be better to keep a stronger defense outside rather than inside, because of the current meta resources and the fact that you have almost limitless grenades?
I think that the grenades are something that, as the match goes on, we've seen in the Connery and Emerald match that actually you can become resource starved from it, especially if you're doing a lot of hopping. And both Miller and Connery have been hopping between bases here, trying to break point holds. It is possible that one or both of them are actually sitting waiting on timers to get resources to be able to pull their C4 and grenades. The resource change has made it from you could starve somebody very quickly to suddenly it takes maybe 6 or 10 times doing something before you can starve them. And so instead of it being an immediate thing, it's now something you have to worry about late in the game, where you go to chuck your grenade to clear a point and you don't have a grenade to chuck.
This would be a lovely time to have a broadcast to the server because we can't do it to the TeamSpeak, but we'll figure that out. We'll make it closer to the game time. Currently 47 minutes to go. 60 seconds, however, to go for... Well, this is actually very interesting because ISA mining operations has been saved, but Mani Lake's satellite, the Air Force for Miller is... Well, it's still here actually, just they've moved slightly over to the spawn room. So, I gotta say, 60 seconds to go. It looks like Miller might actually be able to get back their outpost from Mani. Realizing the urgency, the Connery force are beginning to spawn in increasing numbers. They're bringing in Maxes. That's a huge vehicle resupply, but I question the value of it at this short time and notice. They realistically should be on the ground fighting for the capture point. Going for the spawns at 20 seconds to go is not going to help. And the problem is, they are still not outside the capture point, and the capture point itself is still got a lot of defenses on it.
It's interesting, you know, the NC had population at least one of these bases. I'm shocked that they're both still ticking. I guess mining looks like it's almost in the process of being saved, but Southern can't. They're doing this, having to hop to one to the other, to one to the other, and this will resource starve you. You will not be able to pull Maxes. You won't be able to throw that grenade on the point. This is a if Connery's willing to be patient, this is a fight that they can win.
Well, Miller takes Mani Lake Satellite. They're choosing to push out, which maybe questioning. That's probably what. Yeah, I suppose it's right. They don't want to sit inside and get grenaded. With Maxes, they've got the capture point. They're spawning them from the spawn room, and they're just beginning to mop up the VS force. So that's very good for Miller. It's now down from down to 50-44 in terms of numbers for territory. They've already started an attack on Aurora Materials Lab. Ram Analytics, nothing's going on there. Heavy contention. There's 60 seconds to go for Echo Valley, but given the numbers, you'd think Miller would save with 60 seconds to go.
There are 3 bases that are in danger around the ISA Tech Plant Center: Echo Valley, ISA Southern, and ISA Mining. And it looks like ISA Mining is a fight. I would not call it saved by any means. And ISA Southern, I don't see a force yet coming to help it, and Echo Valley has a large NC presence there, but they are not yet on the point.
40 seconds to go on Echo Valley substation. It's not pretty and it's not clean, but the Miller force is coming in dribs and drabs across Banana, which is on the minimap Banana. Double kind of balcony areas through double doors. and it looks like they've got themselves a capture point. They've made a save. But then again, there wasn't that many VS defending this base in the first place.
And here is a trade. So,
oh, ISA Southern Camp though.
Yeah, this is why we always talk about you want to attack multiple bases. It makes your defender unable to deal with all of them. So Miller tried to resecure mining, that's now going back in the VS's favor. They managed to resecure Echo Valley, but in doing all three, they lost ISA Southern Camp, and now you have, it looks like a small squad of Connery VS back in ISA Tech Plant again.
So Miller makes progress on one front, but they lose on another, and they're back down now to 51-43. So, if I'm right, there's about 4 bases that need to flip, roughly, in Miller's favour for them to take this game in the next 44 minutes. Those 4 bases, if we look at it objectively, oh, they're losing ISA mining operations as well. This is going really bad for Miller. That'd be 5 base flip if they lose this.
Miller needs to start looking at where the easy pushes are. And both of those easy pushes are out of their biolabs. If you put up a whole bunch of people at Manny and pushed out and took some of those small cap points, if you put a whole bunch of people down at Ymir and just tried to push your way to Eli Amp Station, those are the places you need to start moving forces to try and get as much territory back as quickly as you possibly can. This game is still winnable. You're not that far behind. This is the time to start reorganizing forces and put them in different areas of the map and try to push out.
Now this is something I don't understand. I'm currently looking at ISA mining operations and had 10 seconds to go, and there was a full squad of NC just sitting on the upper platform choosing not to go down to the capture point. Either because they didn't want to die, they wanted to repair, they wanted to heal, but in this game mode of Planetside, it doesn't matter what you're doing up there. There's 10 seconds till the base goes. You get your ass from up there and you get down there as quickly as you possibly can and you run to the capture point, soldier, because that's all that matters, and they didn't. So Vanu takes ISA mining operations, and that is brutal for Miller and exceptionally good for Connery. The south, Miller's got a large population force, 68 to 32, trying to take Ymir Southern Reach. So we'll go down and have a look at that now, because we've been neglecting the south. Another Connery force is trying to take Echo Valley Substation, and they are actually getting numbers growing.
I'll stay here if you want to head down to the south. There is a large NC air presence above Echo Valley, but at the moment, it looks like 2 squads, maybe 1 squad of BS have managed to get themselves on the point. They're in the process of trying to set up a powerhouse defense here on the stairs. There is a lot of NC already at this base, however, and they are already trying to come up the big stairs.
Problem with Ymir Southern Reach, and I see this again, and we're already looking at this in the stream, is that it is too easy to grenade spam. The narrow corridors, the doors, the bouncing off walls, the nature of anti-vehicle grenades and how effective they are against maxes, and just cumulatively an AoE against even lightly wounded infantry. One concerted push is devastating, and you're so claustrophobic. And the problem is that the spawn doors, with the spawn rooms and teleports, are so close that you can't keep an effective buffer contained to keep the enemy out of the capture building.
The thing that I have seen that is just, I'm sure it's happened every server smash, I just happen to have seen small squads doing this as well, particularly on this one from both sides, is you have multiple grenades all hitting at the same time. You have a heavy chucking a AV grenade, you have an engineer tossing a sticky grenade, and you have an infiltrator tossing an EMP. Nothing's going to survive in that row. That's so much damage in